So we talked to 5 different quarterbacks in the SEC, and I think it's fair for us to kind of have this discussion right now. Some of our takeaways, a little bit of the behind-the-scenes content from talking to these guys out there in Dallas. Garrett Nussmeier is obviously going to be the quarterback at LSU. I was super impressed with him. You can tell that Garrett Nussmeier is built to be QB1 in Baton Rouge. He's built for it. Yes, his dad was a coach, which has had him around football for the majority, if not all of his life. Speaking to him, though, the way that he carries himself, you can tell that the time that he spent not being the guy at LSU has benefited him in the sense that he's been able to see Jaden Daniels and how he carries himself. He's been able to see the way that he studies and practices and things like that. And also he's walking into a spot now where Brian Kelly in his 3rd year has got, I believe, an outfit that resembles what he wants. Now, will the defense be good enough? That's a whole other discussion. But I think for Garrett Nussmeier specifically, the tools for him physically are there. That was never the question. After speaking to him and looking him in the eye, I am super excited to watch him play. Because if you're the starting quarterback in an SEC football team, more often than not, you got some juice physically. But I think his competitive and mental makeup is going to be a separator. I cannot wait to watch him sling it. Jackson Dart, we interviewed him standing up, so we got to kind of be like eye to eye with him, or I guess he got to look down at our forehead. He's a solid 6'2.5". We talked to him too off the air, and he's like, yeah, that roster's probably shortened me a half inch. I'm probably 6'2.5". They got him at 6'2", 220. I say big dude, man. That's a big dude. You know, you see him seek contact on Saturday afternoons. That frame, from what I can tell, I mean, he's built to take it. I don't want him taking it too much, but I think he's built to lower his shoulder a time or two when he sees fit. He operated and, quite frankly, dressed exactly how I want my quarterback to operate and dress if we're trying to break into the college football playoff if we're Ole Miss. My guy showed up with a Rolex watch, or a Rollie, as he would say, a Louis V bracelet on the other hand, some Gucci loafers, custom suit, like he was to the nines, and just carried himself with a kind of a California cool. I know he's from Utah, spent some time at USC. I'm excited to watch him ball, man, because everything about him, talking to him, resembles what you see on the field. No moment too big. Again, he's poised. He's going to stay level the entire time. And talking to him in person, seeing how he carries himself and seeing how he operates reflected that. So Jackson Dart, what you see is what you get. Don't judge a book by its cover, but I think Jackson Dart's cover is pretty indicative of the book itself. Peyton Thorne was interesting to talk to because he was one guy that I was really excited to hear from just because of how last year went, man. And because of the conversation really during this portal season. Is Auburn going to take a quarterback? Is he the guy? Like, you can tell talking to Peyton Thorne, he is light years more comfortable than he was this time last year. I just appreciated how secure he was in himself speaking to him. And it's kind of an eye contact thing. Like we can all kind of tell when we talk to other people, are they avoiding eye contact? Are they speaking with some bass in their voice? And like maybe we're taking a little bit too much from a small interaction, but I think that after speaking with him, he's not living in last year. He's not stressing last year. He understands last year was what it was. And he also lit up quite a bit when you talk about the future at Auburn and really what they can be this year and the new offense under Hugh Freeze and the weapons they got. Like, he just seems night and day more comfortable. I think last year was kind of a wash when you talk about what you're going to get from him. I think he's ready to show what he can do. So that was fun to hear from him, and also just encouraging to see that he wasn't beat up based on what happened last year. Talking to Carson Beck from Georgia is like talking to an NFL quarterback. He understands that he's the guy. He carried himself that way. Also was looking very, very fresh just because we were taking inventory of that as well at SC Media Days. I think you can make an argument for him being tied for first with Jackson Dart for the freshest guy at Media Days. It is what it is. Something he said that stuck out to me, though, if I'm a Georgia fan, was how he referred to the Auburn game as being a turning point in his season last year. He said, I understand at that point, like, if I go, we'll go. Like, at that point, it sounds like, based on what Carson Beck is saying, started to really turn it on and felt more comfortable. The good news, if you're a Georgia fan, you got a full year of that coming down the pipe. You got a full year of Carson Beck understanding, like, this is his team. If he kicks it into gear and does what he does, they're going to be more than fine, especially with the weapons they went out and got him. So Carson Beck, also what was interesting is the way that he talked about being more comfortable this year, because if you think back, like, we all kind of pegged him as the starter after that spring game. So in how we talked about this on this show, I mean, for the most part nationally, was They haven't named him yet, but it's probably Carson Beck. It's probably Beck who's going to start at Georgia. He was still competing behind closed doors. Like, he was still being pushed by Brock Vandagriff, which if you're a Kentucky fan, that's good news for you that your starting quarterback pushed one of the best, if not the best in the country. He spoke to and seemed more comfortable, which he said is equipping him to be able to lead his teammates better and be more external in his approach to how he benefits his teammates. So that was a lot of fun to talk to him. Again, you understand when you talk to Carson Beck, you're talking to a face of the franchise kind of guy, and he may be the number 1 overall pick in next year's draft. So that checked out. Potentially the most enjoyable conversation of the entire day, just some of it might be how loose he was with us and how conversational he was Graham Mertz from Florida. Like, speaking to Graham Mertz, you're like, oh yeah, this is a guy who's played a lot of college football. This is a guy who is comfortable in his own skin, who's an adult, and I appreciate it, similar to Peyton Thorne, the way that he addressed what they didn't accomplish last year when we asked him about it. Like, we asked him about last year's lack of success in a roundabout way, and he leaned right into it. He's like, yeah, last year we are that team. Like, there's no excuses to be made for that. He wasn't apologetic for the lack of success last year. But he was also very quick to say, last year we are that team. We're not that team this year. This year's team is not bound by last year's lack of success. And so I think just how confident he is in a lot of ways, I believe, is a byproduct of what he had to endure at Wisconsin. Because when he got to Florida now, remember, he was not a lot of folks' first choice to be the portal take for the Gators at quarterback. A lot of other names that folks had on their hot boards ahead of a Graham Mertz on the social media side of things. He's had to block out the noise for a while now, and I think that matches up perfectly with what is going to be required at Florida in 2024 to succeed. So really appreciated all their time. It's media days. You try not to take too much from a small conversation, but there's some dudes in the SEC now at the quarterback position, and we appreciate it getting to talk to those guys. Hey, y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also, be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.